You can start like educating your audience, busting myths about things they might believe that, you want to flip that for them. You can really start with that end goal in mind.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 442. And today, it's time to discover the best email marketing strategy for your industry, even if you have a small list. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and ripple makers. It's your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier. And our theme today for the show is email marketing. And I have been email marketing since like 2003. I've definitely seen so many changes in our industry over the last decade. As a matter of fact, if you follow along on the podcast, you know that a couple years ago, I left one of the platforms I had been on for 15 years to move to Go High Level, actually the Funnel Gorgeous version of it, because I really wanted my email marketing strategy to be streamlined and to perform better. So I'm excited to bring you today's guest. And, one of the things that I know, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the episode, is like your message, how you title things, how you communicate things through your email. It's key. It's everything. And I also know that coming up with titles and messaging may or may not be your sweet spot. And if you struggle to articulate the value you bring to your clients through messaging, you will appreciate a very simple downloadable cheat sheet that I have called the Rocks Method. And this is my little formula that I use. I've been using it in my own business for over a decade, but I also teach this in all of my programs, including my magnetic messaging toolkit and my Authority Accelerator program, is how to use a simple methodology to name things so it's compelling and irresistible and magnetic to your ideal clients. So it's called the Rocks Method. And if you head over to melaniebenson.com/method, you can download this easy to use checklist, keep it handy. And it's a great little tool to help you remember how to create titles that catch attention and get your ideal audience clicking for more. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back, Amplifiers. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite ways to nurture your relationship with your community, and that's email. But we're not just talking about nurturing. We're talking about how to move your community into action with launch emails. Let me introduce you to my guest today, Jenny Roth. Now, Jenny is a copywriter for female founders who want to ditch the traditional marketing trends for relationship-based fire sales copy people love to read and buy from. Jenny's copywriting process is rooted in relationships and client voice data. And as the writer behind hundreds of launches, websites, and funnels, she knows good copy has to do more than just make sales. Your words need to leave your clients feeling confident and excited to work with you. And that's why she's here, because her messaging just drew me in. And I was like, snap, we got to talk to her on the podcast. So welcome, Jenny.
Hi, Melanie. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and to meet you and talk with everyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about so many different ways to be visible, so many different ways to amplify the reach of our message, to get in front of new buyers, to open up opportunities. And to me, email is one of the foundational pieces that many people skip because they're so busy being out there getting new people in, but they're neglecting their email list. So I'm very excited to dig into this with you.
Yeah, of course. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I mean, maybe it's more of like an introverted personality or whatever, but I love writing. I find a lot of freedom in email marketing that it's completely your own. You don't have to show up on camera or film B-roll and all those things. And so if anyone listening is kind of looking for a marketing strategy that is a little bit less off camera, less always feeling like you have to be on. I've really found that in email, and yeah, just excited to share more about it.
Good. Well, people know they need to have an email list. They know they need to be nurturing their email list, and they should have an email list. But I think we both know there are things that hold people back from either starting them or growing them. What do you see happening there?
Yeah, I think for some reason, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of, for lack of better term, mindset drama when it comes to email. I think it's like you said, it's this thing we see everywhere. I should be doing it. I have to be doing it. All the leaders in my niche are doing it. And so we kind of approach it, and I do this too. We approach it as this thing we have to get perfect, and it has to be right. And we can't say the wrong thing or send too many emails or not send enough emails, et cetera, et cetera. Like the list goes on. There's just so much pressure around it to get it like quote unquote right. And so I think that really holds people back from starting an email list because they're afraid of doing it wrong. They're afraid of putting time into something that isn't going to give them return. And I think honestly, they're just afraid that this skill of email marketing is just so much to learn, and it's just so big and all of these things. And so in reality, and we can talk about this a little bit today too, in reality, honestly, it's like all that that mindset drama around it kind of keeps you stuck when email is so possible for everybody, every business owner, no matter what you sell, high or low ticket products.
I think you just leaned into one of those. I'm thinking of like those little mud pits where you're like start sinking in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I know I need to be doing email, but how do I do it in a way that actually gets results? And
Mhm.
what I notice is that people, you know, they're not seeing the results. They're putting
Mhm.
emails out and they're getting crickets, or they're watching people drop off their list like flies, and
Mhm.
they're wondering like, what am I doing wrong? Especially when it comes to making sales through email. What do you think people might be doing wrong when it comes to making sales through their email?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, there could be a million different reasons. I think just to back it up, one thing I think is like a misconception is like you send one email or you email your list every week for a month and then like the sales roll in. And I've never really seen that happen. So I think there's just this misconception out there that like you send the email and the money will come. Like when in reality, I think it takes like a step back of, so one thing I recommend for people to do is to have a newsletter, like your signature newsletter that's really specific, like what it is and who it's for, right? So almost as if you're reading like your favorite newsletter or like newspaper or new like magazine column from like back in the day, if you're older like me, and you look forward to it every week, right? So maybe that's like the copywriting advice column or my biggest lesson I learned in business this week, right? Like, and you really have it like themed and named so people know what they're signing up for and who that newsletter is for and what the content will be about. I think just kind of like backing it up to that will help with email conversions down the road because people are going to then sign up for your list like specifically to hear from you on like your niche, like your topic that you're sharing about. So I think just kind of like really backing it up, like if you're emailing and you're saying, oh my gosh, people are unsubscribing, nobody's buying, like all of these things, just kind of like take a deep breath and pause and remind yourself like what's the purpose of this email list for you. If you're a business owner, it's probably to make money, to make sales. And also what's the purpose of this list like for your reader, like why are they joining, what's their purpose here, and try to kind of find that balance between the two. I think it'll help with like your content in your newsletters, and in your sales. Another thing about not seeing sales with email, I think a lot of business owners kind of take this approach of, I'm going to send a weekly newsletter. And in that newsletter, I'm going to say, and PS, here are 3 ways to work with me, right? Like I'm just going to give all this value, all this educational content. PS, work with me now, kind of thing. And that might, that's totally okay to do, right? Like to send a weekly newsletter. But if you're actively trying to fill a program or an offer or a service, that's not going to cut it. Like you have to you have to run like a full launch, like an email launch. And I think you and I are going to talk a little bit more about that today too.
Yes, we are, because I think that um, its launch strategy is very different than what most people recognize they need to do with their emails. And some people are terrified by it, and some people, might just not even know it exists. So let's talk about it. Well, first of all, before we get into that, I want to tackle one other thing because I think there's a trend that I've noticed amongst my peers where I've been doing this for 24 years. I've been building a list for probably 21 of those 24 years, if maybe 22 of those 24 years. And my list has gotten really big and it's gotten small and it's gotten big again. And so, I think people are thinking, oh, if I don't have a big email list, this isn't going to work for me. What are you seeing happening right now with the size of people's email lists and like what they could do to actually grow the list of aligned connections?
Yeah, so good. I mean, I think email list growth is important. And I can share some things that I see working right now, what I'm doing to grow my list. But also, if anyone listening to this has like a small list and you think you have to grow it before you can launch or like make money with your email list, that's simply not true. There's so many benefits of having a small email list. So when I first started my business, I think I had an email list of like 100 people, and I'm a copywriter, right? And so done for you copy it's high ticket, right? But those 100 people on my list were like my colleagues and my peers, right? They were like people that I kind of knew personally because they knew me, and they joined my email list. They wanted to hear from me. And so one benefit of having a small list like that is like I really knew the people on that list. I really did. And so instead of like putting out offers to them that maybe weren't a good fit for them, I really knew them. I knew what phase of business they were in and what would really help them. And so I created an offer, like a lower ticket email ready membership, like specifically for my audience, and it's been really successful. So I think the benefit of having a small list is like you can know them better. It's easier to follow up with engagement and replies, and also like especially if you're selling something like high ticket, like a program or like one-on-one coaching, you don't need hundreds of clients, right? You need one really good client, and chances are they are on your email list, right? You can start with one, right? So just don't worry about the number of your email list. Write to the one person on there, that the buyer, and just let
Mm,
go of the rest. Yeah.
that is great advice. Like, talk to the one person, not like the everyone that you think is on your list. That's good.
Yeah.
So, and also, I think it's really helpful to know you don't have to have a big list to succeed with this. And I think that might just calm some energies that are like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't have a big enough list. Like, I have a colleague who she makes several $1 million a year, and she has a relatively small list. It's like it's
Yeah.
not the size of your list that matters. So I
Yeah.
think it's really good to remember.
Absolutely. I love it. I think it kind of comes back to what we were talking about too, like growing your list really intentionally with that like themed newsletter or joining events where you're getting, summits, bundles, lead magnet swaps, all those things where you're getting in front of the right audience. It doesn't have to be like these massive numbers of people.
Okay, good. Whew, relief. Shake it out, guys, as you're listening in. Don't have to have a big list. Don't have to do all the things to create some massive email campaign or list building campaign. But we do want to maximize our list to sell, to enroll, to solve the problem that they have that we're uniquely designed to do. So walk us through like what we need to be doing if we're going to do a launch or a campaign that's we want people to buy from us.
Yeah. So I always kind of recommend, and every business is different. So everyone listening to this, you don't want to tailor and adopt it to your business. But I recommend for people doing like a launch, like a real launch once a quarter, right? Maybe every other month if you can. And again, just like depending on your business model. So even if that offer that you're selling is evergreen and it's always open or it's done for you or one-on-one, whatever you're doing, once a quarter, look at your calendar and think like, okay, Q1, this is the offer that I want to fill. This is the program that I want to sell. And just choose to have let's say at the end of that quarter, a launch period. And again, even if it's evergreen and always open, you can still launch it, right? You can still like make a special bonus for this this enrollment period, like something like that, just to make it special and to have people want to get in there now. So many times I just want to say that, because so many times people are like, but my offer is evergreen, it's always open. It's like, you can still launch it to fill it, and you can add like things in to make each enrollment period like special and unique, and to really get people excited so that they enroll during that time. And so when you are not actively launching, you're of course sending like your weekly email newsletter, like staying in touch with people, right? You're not just ghosting your list and then coming in once a quarter to launch something. So you're really like, you're talking to your people, you're getting to know them really, really well. And then we kind of 4 to 6 weeks before like the quote cart opens, you go into kind of what I call like a pre-launch phase. Is that something you want to talk about more, like what emails go out and things like that during that phase?
Well, I think understanding that there are several phases to this is
Yeah.
really important because I think this gets neglected. People don't really understand. There's something that you do before you start the campaign itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really intentional. Like when you start with like, this is my offer I want to fill for this quarter, right? And so you get so intentional with like your nurture content, your YouTube, your blog, your podcast, because you know at the end of that quarter, here's the offer you want to fill, right? So you can start like educating your audience, busting myths about things they might believe that, you know, you want to like flip that for them. You can really start with that end goal in mind. And so you're doing that in your newsletter, your podcast, all the things the whole quarter. And then you get to pre-launch time. And so that just means for me, that just means about, I don't know, it's different for everybody. I would say about 4 weeks before you're going to open the cart, give or take, maybe 4 to 6, 2 to 6, whatever, you know, it looks like for your offer. You are sending more emails, right? If you can. Oftentimes, if it's possible, I like recommend to clients send 2 or 3 a week if you can. And during those emails, you're doing one of two things. You're either building like a wait list, or you're driving to like a momentum event. So like a webinar, a masterclass, something that you're going to do, a challenge, something that you're going to do to really kick off your launch. And if you're not into webinars and masterclasses, that's okay. I don't want anyone listening to this to feel like, oh my gosh, now I have to learn webinars. Like you don't have to. I launch stuff all the time. I'm not into webinars either. You could just build like a wait list. So people are signing up and getting ready for your offer that's opening. And so like the key in this part though, that I think a lot of business owners I don't know, maybe get wrong or don't know, is that you're not just like, come to my free thing, join my waitlist, like just pushing them to this free event with no mention of the paid offer. During this pre-launch phase, you're very clear about like, the cart for my offer is the paid offer is opening on this masterclass, right? And here's why you want to come. So you're driving people to your momentum event or to your waitlist, and you're letting them know that by coming to that free event or by being on that waitlist, like the main event is that they get first access for your offer. So all throughout this pre-launch phase, you're talking about your offer, you're sharing client wins, you're showing how your offer solves problems that your clients have, you're answering questions they might have about the offer. You're really talking about your offer a lot, so that when cart is open, it's not like, oh, surprise, cart is open, I've never heard of this offer before. Like they're ready. They've heard you talking about it for weeks. They're ready to make a buying decision on cart open day.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think, at least in my experience, people don't really know how to do that, or they think they're doing it, but they're not. And then all of a sudden, they're wondering why their campaign isn't performing well and they're not getting buyers. And I wonder sometimes if like they just really haven't prepared their email community for what they're about to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe even, I'm just trying to think of like launches I wrote in like 2018, 2020. It was so possible to come in with like a card is open email with like all the firework emojis and like
Yeah.
have something sell in like 7 or 8 emails. I don't see that happening anymore. I think it's just like a more sophisticated market, and it takes people a while to build that relationship with you. And
Mm.
so I found it really beneficial to in that pre-launch period, let people know that the doors are opening to your offer. Um, Build the hype around it, whether that's through a wait list or a free event. And also I find it helpful too, if you can, to let them know, like maybe there's like a 24-hour sign up bonus on that day too, on the day of your webinar or on the day of your wait list. So they have, and make that bonus really, really good. And we can talk about that too. If you're going to have one, don't just throw one in to have one. But if you can throw in a bonus that like overcomes their first objection, like, oh, I want to join this offer, but XYZ, and you have a bonus that solves that thing holding them back right away, make that like a 24-hour sign-up bonus as well. So those are just some things to think about. But I think the most important thing in that pre-launch phase is that you are not afraid to start selling your offer and letting people know that it's coming.
Love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know happens is this fear that I'm going to send too many emails.
Yeah.
What if I make my followers leave me because I'm bombarding them? What is your advice to someone who's worried about sending too many emails?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I feel like it comes up all the time. And so, honestly, if that's something that you're afraid of, just know that it's totally normal. And I just also want to know, like, to just normalize unsubscribes a little bit. So I always tell like this story. I launched my Done For You copy services to my email list, right? And so I will tell people like on my last launch, I had like 300 unsubscribes or something like that. But also, I filled my calendar for a whole quarter, right? So it's crazy. Or so, like, I've also had people unsubscribe from my list and then come back and buy from me like 6 months
Me
later when they were
too.
ready. So yeah, so totally. So it's like people, I think, make unsubscribes mean something about you, like you said something wrong or you sent too many emails, but it's never that. The only reason people unsubscribe is because they're just not the best fit for your offer right now. Like they're maybe not in a position of business or life that it's for them. And that's nothing you did wrong or, nothing that you can change. So I always tell people don't grip your unsubscribers so tight, or your subscribers, right? Like the purpose of writing to your list should not be so that nobody ever leaves you, so that nobody ever leaves the list. That's no way to market or write or run a business. That you'll just drive yourself crazy. Just come back to and remember you're writing to the one buyer, the one person who's going to eat that email up, the one person who needed to hear that today, who loves what you write. There's more than one person on there, but just write to the one. It simplifies it. And just, I don't know, let those unsubscribes go and just know that they're so normal. It just means you're talking to somebody and it just wasn't them.
Yeah, and I think in this day and age, people are so overwhelmed with what's happening in their inbox. Sometimes it's just like it's not relevant right now,
Right.
and or they're really limiting what they hear from, or maybe what you're talking about right now is triggering for them. And it's not about you. It's just like it's not where they want to be putting their time and attention. And I've noticed that people, when they're not ready, reading my emails triggers them because they're like,
Mhm.
yes, I'm not ready to do anything about this right now, so I got to get Melanie out of my head, right? And then they come back when they're ready. And so, yes, it is really good to normalize the unsubscribes and know that we all get them. Doesn't mean
Mhm.
anything bad about us. But I think this is a good segue into talking about something you're really known for, which is this idea of relationship-based email. And I would love if you could draw some distinctions or just maybe help us unpack that a little bit more. What does that mean? And how do we craft relationship-based emails versus what we might do in a launch?
Oh yeah.
Or
Okay.
maybe
This
they're the
is
same. I don't know.
Yeah. No, so between when you're not launching, another thing that, yeah, I absolutely love is like, what do I send to my list when I'm not actively launching? And that doesn't mean, again, you can't sell an evergreen offer or let people know when your calendar is open during that time. Like you totally can, but it's like you're not going at it with that same goal of like a launch where you're like, we're going to fill this and we have a card open close date, right? And so for me, relationship based emails just mean emails that sound like they were written in your real voice. They were written by a human. They are written and filled with your approach, your unique take on things, your stance, the way you treat and work with clients. They're written to get a lot of engagement. So they ask for a lot of replies, and they're really set up to build like community with your list. So
Mm.
for example, like some relationship based email like ideas. So people listening to that might be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, but what are you talking about? Like, how do I do that? Right. And so, like, for example, one of my favorite like relationship based emails you could send like between launches, or like I tell people send it at the top of the month, is I call it like the calendar time email. Right. And so whatever, it could be different just depending on your business, but it's basically you open up like a limited window. You don't want to, of course, like, overwork yourself here, but open up like a limited number of like coffee chats with your list. Or for me, that looks like a limited number of free like copywriting audits on something they wrote. Or Maybe it looks like opening up like a lead magnet swap with people on your list. Like really like just opening up your calendar once a month to see like how you can help and connect and have conversations with people on your list. Maybe it's a mini coaching call. Like it just depends on your business model. And I've seen this a lot of ways, and I've seen people offer it like really, really low ticket too, like $47 or something like that, right? Just to like really build community and engagement that way with your list. So another example of like a relationship-based email that I think people really love is I see a lot of coaches doing this, and I absolutely love it. So again, like once a month or so, they will ask their email list to send in their biggest question on whatever topic you coach on, right? Health and weight loss, whatever. And they choose one and they answer it like anonymously to the whole email list, like give like a mini coaching call to like their entire email list answering that question. So I think that's very interactive and very cool. Another, just to give you one more example, is like I call it the win and learn email. So I often say like on Fridays, just sit down and think about like what was your biggest win from the week and what was your biggest learn, or do it every other week if weekly's too much, whatever. And just share with your list like, hey, this is what is going on with me this week. There was a huge win for me, and here's like a fail, and here's what I learned from it, right? I get so many replies when I do that style of email because I think people love to see like what you're actually doing, versus just what you say to do. So yeah, I don't know. I hope those are helpful.
Yeah, I love it's really about being more personal.
Yeah.
And like instead of just like creating emails that are maybe artificial or like what you think people want to hear, it's like take them on a journey with you and
Mhm.
let them get to know you. I do a new weekly newsletter, and I have been doing it for probably 15, 20 years. And
Yeah.
one of the things I really started doing, and I've noticed a massive difference from this, is that every week I share something a little bit personal about me or something that I noticed, and I write it kind of as a personal story in the beginning. And I notice like it's keep even if people unsubscribe from other things, they keep the newsletter every week. It's been really fascinating.
Yeah.
So
I love
I
it.
agree.
Yeah, totally. I think people are, again, I think there's just such a trend too in the online space right now of like, and that's such a beautiful way to teach too, versus like, you should do this, or here's how to do this, to come at it from more of like, this is what I'm doing right now. This is, what's happening with me. And I think people can learn from you in that way too.
I love it. What a great suggestion. As a matter of fact, as you're listening in, if you're doing this already or you decide to do this from today's episode, give us a little shout out wherever you're listening to this or on your favorite social media platform and tag us and let us know, like, yeah, I'm putting this into action and here's what's happening as a result of it. I mean, I know I love hearing when you put something into action from what you learn from my amazing guests or me. So thank you, Jenny. That was great. Let's talk about a next step because you have a resource that can help people take this as from an idea into action. Can you share with us your resource that you're making available to everybody?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie. So, yeah, everyone listening, I have a free resource. So, just talking about the relationship based emails that we were just talking about, I have a collection of about 6 of them, and it's like a template for each one and a video that walks you through sending each, like, customizing each relationship based email for your unique business. And it gives you a calendar so you could see like, how could I set these 6 emails up in my marketing calendar every month? And then really you could just rotate through them and just have this really serving client centered email marketing strategy between launches. So we can definitely link to that in the show notes.
Beautiful. Yeah, we'll link that up in the show notes for you all. Relationship-based email marketing strategy and template collection sounds really helpful if this is a new muscle for you to build in your emails. And by the way, I have found that starting with something makes it so much easier than trying to make it up in my head. So thank you for
Yes,
making those available. That's awesome.
of
Well,
course.
Jenny, this is my time in the episode where I love just kind of going a little deeper into getting to know you as the human being behind your email marketing. What would you say is the ripple you are making in the world?
Oh my gosh. I wasn't prepared for that question. That's such a good question. Well, I don't know, I hope the ripple that I'm making in the world is two things, two parts of my story that I think are good is it's never too late. Um, and just to put yourself out there before you're ready, right? And so I often
Mm,
talk about um, I think there's so many people listening and so many like business owners out there who feel like it's too late to go into this niche or to pivot or to make a change or to do whatever you want to do. And I just want to encourage you, if you're listening, that it's never too late. I've done so many things in my late 30s and going into my 40s and starting things later in life at that, not super later in life, but midlife, that I never thought I could do. And I'm always surrounded by women who are like my own grandma, she got her GED in her 50s, right? And I'm always like, every time I think it's too late to make a change or do what I want to do, I always meet a woman who's older than me telling me, girl, stop it. Like, it's not too late. And I think another thing that's really important is to grow my business. I did a lot of pitching myself and putting myself out there before I was completely ready or probably even qualified at all. So I think a lot of business owners wait until they have everything perfect or until they know more to like take big leaps. And I would just encourage you to, I don't know, pitch yourself for those opportunities that you want to have, do the things you want to do, and you are going to figure it out as you go. Don't wait for everything to be perfect before you do the things you want to do.
Lovely. I would second that.
Yeah.
Last question, and this is a good segue from what you just shared, is what would you say if you're looking back towards the beginning of when you started this business as a copywriter? What was the bold decision that you made that ended up propelling the success of your work forward?
Yeah, just kind of tagging on that answer I was talking about is, the very first, sales page I ever wrote for a client. I loved this business. I wanted to write for her so much. So I had never written a sales page. And I sent her a Loom video pitching myself to write her page. And she said yes. I couldn't believe it. But I had a template and I had a little coaching program. Like, I knew enough and I did it. And it was wonderful. Right. So it kind of just goes, I think the boldest things I did to get my business going is, again, putting myself out there, right? I really wanted to have another business owner on my podcast as a guest. And so I pitched that collaboration to her. I never had guests on my podcast and I couldn't believe it. She said yes. So then I had to quick, set up a whole like guest interview process, like on the spot. And so it does seem a little chaotic. I mean, I don't recommend making every decision that way, but definitely if there's something you want to do, but you're holding yourself back because your systems or your process or your knowledge isn't like completely perfect, I would just encourage you not to do that, because I think that's gotten me far, is like going for it and figuring it out and trusting yourself to figure it out.
Imperfect action
Yes.
has a lot of benefits. Now, sometimes it's like you need to kind of course correct as you go. But I have a friend from Australia, and one of her favorite sayings is, shoot for the moon, or like, like
Yeah.
you're gonna throw your hat in for the biggest thing possible, and then you just kind of chew like hell and figure it out as you go. And it's
Yeah.
always really funny to me because I'm kind of a combination of shoot high, figure it out with strategic honing once I've made that big leap. And I think you got to be willing to do both. So, Jenny, that's a great way to end today. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing us amazing wisdom on your emails. I hope as you're listening in that you connect with Jenny, go grab her resource, follow us both on whatever social media platforms you listen to, or you are active on, and tell us what you got out of today's episode. Thank you, Jenny.
Love it. Thank you, Melanie.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.